أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. يومئذ تعرضون لا تخفى منكم خافية فأما من أوتي كتابه بيمينه فيقول هاؤم اقرءوا كتابيه إني ظننت أني ملاق حسابيه فهو في عيشة راضية في جنة عالية قطوفها دانية كلوا واشربوا هنيئا بما أسلفتم في الأيام الخالية. Continuing Surah Al-Haqqa, within which the theme Allah Azza wa Jal lays out through the first ayat of the surah, which is for us to pay attention to the unfolding realities in front of us and the ultimate unfolding reality of the hereafter, which would unfold in front of all of mankind, and everyone will be forced to open their eyes at that point, and nothing will be hidden. So within the last ayat, Allah Azza wa Jal says, يَوْمَئِذٍ تُعْرَضُونَ, on that day all of you shall be displayed before Allah for judgment. لا تخفى منكم خافية, not a single one of your secret acts will be concealed in seclusion from Him. So there will be no seclusion on the day of resurrection. The fact that the mahshar, the hashar, will be a flattened earth, no raised lands, no mountains, no nothing higher, a flat land, is to tell us that there will be no hiding. Nothing can hide. And so nothing will hide in the mahshar, on the land of resurrection. No people will be able to hide. People will not be able to move without the permission of Allah, nor will people be able to speak without the permission of Allah. Nothing will occur except that a person will try to seek Allah's permission. If Allah allows, a person will move, speak. If Allah does not allow, then a person will stay silent, remain in their place. لا تخفى منكم خافية is for us to remember that nothing will remain hidden on the day of resurrection. So in the next few ayat, Allah Azza wa Jal mentions the state of two different types of people. People of good and people of evil. And what their exact individual state will be like on the day of resurrection. So Allah Azza wa Jal says, فَأَمَّا مَنْ أُوتِيَ كِتَابَهُ بِيَمِينِهِ, then as to the one who is given his book of deeds in his right hand. So people will be given a record of their deeds. A kitab, a record of their deeds. So you have, in this life, you have examples of records. You have registers, you have books. You have nowadays memory, electronic memory. You have memory cards, memory storage. And it's amazing how just in this life we're able to see now how so much memory is placed into micro and nano hardware, very small. One would assume that an entire life registry, an entire life's record, a record of a person's entire life, of every single action, every single word, every single glance, every single movement, every single aspect of a person's life, if it's recorded in a book, the book must be giant. But no, it will be a book which will be placed in the hand of a person. It will come back to you. It will come back to a person. Every single aspect of a person's life will come back to a person in the hereafter. We experience this many times in this life as well, and I'll mention that after. But in the hereafter, in the most ultimate form, a person's entire life will be placed in a registry in front of them. So the person who's given this record form, this book of their life, if they're given it within their right hand, as it comes in hadith, that people will be approached by the angels. And angels will come in front of them and give them their record form to them in front of them to their right hand. And those people will gladly accept their record form. And then there will be people whom the angels will approach them from behind them. Right? It will creep up to a person. Right? A person's deeds will creep up to them, and they will place it in that person's left hand, and the person will try to get rid of it. They'll try to throw their record. They'll try to get rid of their record, but they won't be able to get rid of their record. They'll try to dodge the angel, but they won't be able to dodge the angel. What's done was done. Now you can't run away from it. So as for the person who's given their record form, from in front of them, the angel comes in front of them. The angel doesn't shock that person. The angel gives it to them in their right hand. Then that person will be extremely joyful and happy, because that will be one of the greatest signs of a person and their success. So when the person receives that book in their right hand, they will say, Ha Ha is a word which is an action, right? So it's from the Asma'ul Af'al. That it's a word, and linguistically, which is a verb in the form of amr. Come and read my book. It basically means like to take. That come and take and look and read my book. Right? It's in front of you. Here it is. Here is my book in front of you. Right? You can see the emotion, or you can imagine the emotion through the type of language which is presented in the the ayah. Right? Allah Azza wa Jal is saying, what will this person say at that moment? Right? Meaning, what will a person's reaction be when they receive their book in their right hand? What will their reaction be? Ha doesn't come any other place. It comes here in the Quran. This is to expand on this reaction of this person. He will be so joyful. Everyone will be hiding on that day. Everyone will try to hide when there's nothing that can hide, as the previous ayah mentions. Nothing will hide. Nothing will be able to hide. Such a person will not want to hide. Once he receives his book in his right hand, he will say to the people, look at my book. Look at my state now. He will not be afraid to hide. Right? Many of the experiences of the hereafter, a person can experience them in this life if they open their eyes. For example, a person who follows morals and principles, follows their deen, understands their deen, recognizes the responsibility of their actions, and tries their best, generally in this life, they're confident enough to stand in front of people. They're confident enough. Right? No one is ever confident enough in this life that each and every action be put in front of people. That's just the nature of this life. No person. Every person is begging Allah Azza wa Jal to cover them. At the end of the day, this person who's given their book in their right hand is mastur, is a person who their sins are covered, their sins are forgiven. Right? In this life, generally, there's a balance between a person's confidence as well as their humility to Allah Azza wa Jal, and that they want Allah Azza wa Jal to continue covering them. But a person who is upon a moral upright path, they're not afraid of people. They're not afraid to show their moral uprightness to people. They know even if the entire world, this is why the Anbiya والسلام, were confident and they knew the entire world can oppose them, but they knew where they stand. This is an experience of this, that come look at my reality, look at my uh, look at my ideals of life. I know that I'm responsible. I know that I will be responsible in the hereafter. I know that my actions have consequences. Such a moral, upright person is confident. In the hereafter, this confidence will be bolstered. It will be apparent in front of the people that come look at my book. Come look at my book. اقرأوا كتابي ها It is in front of you. إليكم ها اقرأوا كتابي. Read my book. كتابية. It's kitabi, and ha is ha sakat. It doesn't come much in the Quran, but it comes here. It does. Sometimes some huruf, some letters will not play a direct role in the meaning, but they play an indirect role. Right? They play an indirect role. Right? So the kitabiyah, this ha, which comes at the end, it plays several roles. One role is in badi', in the nazm, which is the structure of the ayah. The second role is in its meaning. Right? Is in its meaning. That you can see, you know, when a person is given their result, when a person is given their result, they take a breath, right? They take a breath. Some people, they take a breath and they're happy with what they got. They are relieved. In the next few ayat, we'll read the state of a different person. Right? And that person will not take a breath of relief, rather it will be like tanaffasu su'ada. Such a person will be in regret. Yeah. A person will not take a breath of relief, they'll be in regret. This person who received their book in their right hand says more of what he says. Inni dhanantu anni mulaqin hisabiya. Right? So when a person recognizes their success, come look at my book, then after that a person acknowledges, right? So even in this life, when a person is successful in anything, first they recognize that moment of success, then they look retrospectively, they look back, they acknowledge what is the effort that I had to put in to be able to get to where I am now. So this person says, Inni dhanantu anni mulaqin hisabiya. He acknowledges the effort that he made. He acknowledges the state that he was in, that indeed I did in life believe. I had strong. Dhanantu does not mean, right? This is the importance that we learn, that we must understand Arabic by studying Arabic in detail and studying the language specifically at the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Dhan also means yaqeen. Dhan, by the context, it can mean a thought. It can mean something of yaqeen as well. So a concrete idea. Dhanantu inni dhanantu. I had concrete belief. I had firm belief. So it doesn't mean a thought which is, a person doesn't have conviction within. Right? Over here, dhan doesn't mean a thought without conviction. Rather, it means that a person held conviction, held yaqeen. I had yaqeen, that I had belief, strong belief, that I would most surely face my reckoning. Anni mulaqin hisabiya. Mulaqi is when a person comes face to face. So this person says, I believed that one day I would face the consequences of my actions. I would face reckoning. Right? I would face reckoning. So now, فَهُوَ فِي عِيشَةٍ رَاضِيَةٍ. So such a person is now in eternal bliss. عِيشَةٍ رَاضِيَةٍ. In a life well-pleasing. فِي جَنَّةٍ عَالِيَةٍ. In a lofty garden of paradise. قُطُوفُهَا دَانِيَةٍ. Its fruits near at hand. This is to expand that in Jannah there is no exhaustion anymore. A person made the effort when they're in Jannah, no more exhaustion. You had to make an effort. You had to make an effort in this life for food to come to your table. That is the most primal effort that a human being makes. A human being, would leave their home, leave their residence to go to attain food. We still do the same thing. It just looks different. But we still go out to attain our food. Now the food is brought to you. قُطُوفُهَا دَانِيَةٍ. Not only, right? Sometimes people make the effort in this life, but they never get to taste the sweetness of this life. In the hereafter, not only will everything be brought to you, but the fruits, the sweetness of Jannah, the sweetness of paradise will be placed right in front of you. قُطُوفُهَا دَانِيَةٍ. At hands with. No effort will have to be made. The trees will humble themselves. The branches will come down, and the fruit will come within your hand. Kulu washrabu. Eat and drink. Hani'am. Hani'am is to say with full joy, full contentment. With bima aslaftum. For what you have done fil ayyam al-khaliya, in the days that have gone by. So the contentment is not just in that a person is in bliss. In this life, when you gain a blessing, right, the blessing is sweeter. Right? The magnitude of the sweetness of the blessing depends on how much effort you made for it. If you didn't make effort for something and it falls in your hand, it's enjoyable, it's nice, but it's not as enjoyable as when you make an effort for something, you struggle for something, and then your achievement, what you achieve, falls in your hand. When you struggle and make an effort for something, then it's even sweeter, it's even nicer. So the people of Jannah are not just enjoying, they're not forgetting the past, they're not moving past this entire dunya. Rather, now it will all make sense. It'll be processed in the best way. The entire lifespan that they pass within this life, all the days that went by, will make sense now. In this life, it will not make sense necessarily, but in the hereafter, for a person who goes to Jannah, it will make sense. They'll be able to understand everything that happened to them in this life, everything that occurred in this life. And they will appreciate, they will come to appreciate this life, right? Because of the efforts that were made, the devotion that was given to their deen, the moral uprightness that they stood, and they will be content. Right? On the other hand, Allah Azza wa Jal tells us of the state of another person. وَأَمَّا مَنْ أُوتِيَ كِتَابَهُ بِشِمَالِهِ. As for one who is given his book of deeds in his left hand. So in the hadith it comes that the angels will come behind from a person, and the person will try to dodge the angels when he notices this. but they will not be able to, and they will be forced to take their book from behind them. It's to show there will be this in this hereafter. Even in the hereafter, there's this type of embarrassment. Right? In this world, we experience honor, we experience embarrassment, shame. In the hereafter, honor and shame will be multiplied by 1,000,000 times. If you felt honor in this life, it's like a teaspoon in compared to honor in the hereafter. And if you experienced embarrassment or shame in this life, it's also only like a teaspoon too, shame and embarrassment in the hereafter. This is why from the dua we make La tukhzina yawm al-qiyamah. Oh Allah, do not let us down, do not embarrass us in the hereafter. Such a person will be embarrassed. They'll take their book from behind them in their left hand. They'll want to hide it, but they can't hide it. Now, in the previous ayat, the person who receives their book in their right hand, they want to show it. There is a moment of pride. There is a moment of honor that Allah bestows upon that person. But this person, he says, فَيَقُولُ يَا لَيْتَنِ لَمْ أُوتَ كِتَابِيَهْ. Then miserably shall he say, oh, Ya laytani, oh, if only I had not been given my book. Now what you think about is, a person is given their entire book in front of them, as if they can see themselves in the mirror, and they don't want to see themselves. Right? They don't want to see their book. Such a person is embarrassed of what they've done. Such a person cannot come to terms with who they were and what they did. Right? Such a person comes to disbelief. This is what Allah Azza wa Jalla says, Nasullaha fa'ansahum anfusahum. That when people forget Allah, then Allah causes them to forget themselves. They cannot even see themselves in the mirror. They cannot come to recognize themselves. They cannot come to acknowledge. They're in utter shock. What have I become? What have I done? It's too late now. Ya laytani lam ud. Only if I wasn't even given my book. I would prefer not. This is what is said regarding the people of disbelief as well. They will beg to become dirt, but Allah will not allow them. How can you go from being a human being given life, given a ruh, given a soul, given life from Allah Azza wa Jal, to wishing death upon yourself, to wishing destruction upon yourself, wishing that you don't exist? Lam uta kitabi. Only if I wasn't given this book. That book is all the memories, all the records, everything that a person did. In this life, we experience this as well. How many times we think of something in the past, we remember a memory, and at that moment we distract ourselves. We don't want to think of it. We'd rather throw it away. Sometimes we want to get rid of a memory, and we can't even get rid of a memory. Something I mention a lot to the youth at many times is that don't take your time for granted, and don't think that whatever you do today, you will not think about it tomorrow. Whatever you do now, you will think about it tomorrow. Even if you make tawbah tomorrow, remember that the memory of the sin or the memory of wasting time will follow you, and you'll regret it. The memory alone is a punishment. Even if you make tawbah, right? Even if you make tawbah, Allah forgives you, Allah accepts you. Right? There are still always consequences. Right? There's always a consequence that remains. Right? This isn't to say that the tawbah is not accepted or the tawbah has no value. Tawbah may be a means for the person to that their rank is risen. But still the memory comes, the record is still there. It's still there. The memory, at least in this life, will still be there. Right? One will wish that they could turn it back. It's like the example of an analogy. A father tells his son that, whenever you do something wrong, put a nail in the wall. Right? So the son puts a nail in the wall every time he does something wrong. Then after some time, the father says to him, now everything you did wrong, fix the situation, and when you fix it, take the nail out of the wall. The son, every single time he fixes something he did wrong, he takes a nail out of the wall. At the end, the father says to him, you put nails in the wall. Now you took the nails out as well, but the holes are still there. Right? The holes are still there. Even though the nails originally, the harms that you caused, you reversed it, you took them out. The holes are still there. So sometimes the record, the memories, the registry of a person haunts a person. In this example, Ya laytani, such a person will wish they would prefer not to even see themselves in the mirror of their book. وَلَمْ أَدْرِ مَا حِسَابِيَهْ. This person, on the other hand, in contrast to the first person, says, وَلَمْ أَدْرِ مَا حِسَابِيَهْ, and had never known what is my reckoning. يَا لَيْتَهَا كَانَتِ الْقَاضِيَةِ. Oh, if only death had been the end. And so such a person now is wishing death over themselves. مَا أَغْنَى عَنِّي مَالِيَهْ. My wealth has not availed me. Right? So, complete contrast in comparison to the person before. The person before, thinking of the hereafter, thinking of the consequences of their actions. In this life, this person had no conception of reckoning, was not thinking that they will be reckoned, not thinking that they will be taken to hisab. Only if I didn't have to face my hisab. Ya laytaha kanat al-qadiyah. Only if something would just take my life. Only if I would be given death. Ma aghna anni maliya. Now at this moment, the person calls upon his false idols, his false hopes. This person had a lot of hope in his wealth. He placed all of his hope in his wealth. So what's the first thing that he remembers? In this life, you make an effort towards something. If you fail, just like the person who succeeds, he remembers exactly what he did that caused him to succeed. If you fail in this life, you also remember and acknowledge exactly what caused you to fail. In the next life will be the same state. This person remembers exactly what caused him to fail. He had all of his hope in his wealth. He had all of his hope in his dunya. But exactly all of that hope, all of his attention is exactly what caused him to fail. And he'll recognize that when it's too late, right at that moment. What did my wealth do for me? Nothing. It didn't benefit me at all. Ma aghna anni maliya. My wealth has not availed me, has not given me any benefit. It's not benefiting me at all. And the it's a beautiful wording, right? The point of mal, the point of wealth is to make you ghani. The point of wealth is to make you wealthy. So he says, my wealth is not making me wealthy. Ma aghna. It's not benefiting me. My wealth is not benefiting me. My wealth is not giving me any wealth in the hereafter. This is why it's extremely important that we do not make our purpose of this life narrow to one thing, which is, that a person can bring food on the table and have a happy, joyous life in this life. Allah will grant you rizq anyways. Allah will give you everything that's written for you to have, as long as it is written for you to have in this life. A person should never narrow their attention to it. A person must learn how to balance. How is it that they must balance living within this life, but living with purpose of the hereafter? How does a person balance this? How does a person while living in this life, keep the hereafter in front of them at all times. This is through knowledge of the deen and practice of the deen. As Ali radiallahu anhu would say, that for more or less in the poem that's mentioned, which goes back to him, that the people of ignorance in this life have wealth, and the people لنا علم وللجهال مال, right? That we have knowledge, people of Islam have knowledge, knowledge of deen, knowledge of the hereafter, knowledge that we will be reckoned to our actions, knowledge of Quran, and knowledge of the unseen. And people who are oblivious, ignorant, juhal, right, they're not paying attention to the hereafter. They have their wealth, which will be of no benefit in the hereafter. Halaka anni sultaniya. My authority has vanished from me. A person built this life, they built their wealth, they built their home, they built their authority. Everyone builds a small, minor authority. Some people are leaders of their home, some people are leaders of just themselves, some people are leaders of the community. And not in the, I'm not mentioning necessarily the positive sense, but I'm mentioning the fact that everyone builds some level of autonomy, authority. Everyone wants authority, and everyone's building some sort of authority. Everyone has their own little world that they're a king in, right? And that will be of no benefit in the hereafter. You'll have no benefit from your authority that you had over your family, over your community, or if you were a national, international leader. None of that will avail you in the hereafter. None of it will benefit you. Your power, your strength of this life will be of no benefit. You had all the hope in it, in your wealth and in your power. You had all the hope in it. It will be of no benefit. It will vanish. It will not benefit you when your book is placed in your left hand. So this is, Allah Azza wa Jalla is telling us in detail the individual state of the person who's given their book of deeds in their right hand, and the individual state of the person given their book of deeds in the left hand. Allah Azza wa Jalla is allowing us to picture exactly what will happen before it happens, so that we prepare for it. Right? When you read into the hereafter, as the Quran mentions it, you ponder upon it, you think about it, you look at the ahadith which mention it, then your yaqeen in the hereafter becomes stronger. This is a great part of the a reality of these ayat. Right? All of these ayat are focusing around reckoning the hereafter, consequences of your actions. It is because of these ayat of the hereafter, you have to understand what is the functional role of believing in the hereafter for a believer. A believer knows that they must do right and wrong, they must do right and stay away from wrong because of one purpose and one purpose alone. Whether there's benefit of doing the right in this life or not, whether there's harm of doing the wrong in this life or not. When we believe in the hereafter, that alone is supposed to guide us to do the right thing and to stay away from the wrong thing. This is the power of believing in the hereafter. This is why believing in the hereafter establishes a society like none other. In a society, there will always be laws and guidelines, checks and balances to keep things straight. What is the greatest check and balance in a Muslim society? What is the greatest moral code? It is the principle of a person's reckoning in the hereafter. When a person remembers this, knowing this alone is supposed to drive us to do the right thing and drive us away from the wrong thing. Right? Despite the consequences in this life. In this life, we get away and we will get away with many wrong things, and we will also do many right things which will be unappreciated, which will not be acknowledged. Right? This life is not the place of jaza. This life is the abode of dunya. It's darul dunya. The hereafter is darul jaza, the abode of reckoning, the abode of consequences. And so every action's consequence will manifest in the hereafter. This is an extremely important belief which we have to strengthen. It doesn't, a person doesn't just believe one day and that's it. No. Constant speaking of the hereafter, constant remembrance of the hereafter, constant ponderance upon the hereafter, right? That will remind a person that they have to do the right thing and they have to stay away from the wrong thing. Then this becomes the greatest means for a person to do the right things in this life. This is why when Rasulullah ﷺ, for example, gave one of the most practical situations that a person is in this life, how do you deal with your family? Rasulullah ﷺ did not say there's a family law, and if you do this, there'll be this penalty, and there'll be this, and if you don't do this, then this. Ittaqullah. Have taqwa. Be conscious of Allah. That alone, when you're thinking of Allah, thinking that Allah will take your hisab, thinking that everything you do will have a consequence, will now tell you that you cannot talk and deal with your partner or your children or your parents however you want to. You'll be conscious. You can't talk to people in the community however you want to. This is why Rasulullah said that Man kana yu'minu billah, the person who believes in Allah and in the hereafter, فَلْيَقُلْ خَيْرًا, then such a person should either say good, أو يَصْمُتْ, or stay silent. How much do we think of the hereafter when we talk? When this record, right? This record, within which every word will be mentioned, every word, مَا يَلْفِظُ مِنْ قَوْلٍ, every word will be mentioned, every word will be within that record. Let alone every action, every word will be documented in that record. This is supposed to be thought about, supposed to be imagined, pictured through these ayat so that we can discipline ourselves to do the right thing. Think about this when you talk to people. Think about this when you deal with people. Think about this when you're dealing with people in business. Think about this when you're dealing with people in other settings, when you're dealing with family at home, when you're dealing with brothers and sisters in the community, when you're dealing with non-Muslims, when you're dealing with anyone. Think about this, that what will be the consequences of the actions that I do. And then think about it when you're alone as well. Even when you're not dealing with anyone else but yourself. When you're dealing with no one else but yourself. When a person reminds themselves that there will be accountability for their actions, then even when they're alone, they'll be hesitant to do something wrong. They'll remember that whatever I do will be brought forward, there will be no hiding, and the reality of all of this will become apparent in the next life. This is what these ayat want us to think about, and we'll conclude here. And within the next ayat, Allah Azza wa Jal mentions the punishment, which we'll read from next week, of this person who's given. The blessing of the person of Jannah was mentioned. Now the punishment will be mentioned. And the punishment will be mentioned in more detail, in this passage at least, than even the blessing. And there's a reason for that. And we'll mention that inshallah next week. May Allah Azza wa Jal grant us the understanding of these ayat. Allah Azza wa Jal forgive us for any shortcomings in our attempt to understand His perfect word. Wa akhir dawana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Sadaqallahu al-azim. Subhanallah bihamdihi. Subhanallah bihamdik. Nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk.